Ultra Beasts are taking over Alola, so they'll be the only Pokemon obtainable in this run. To be honest, I'm still not sure if they're even really Pokemon, but they go in Pokeballs, so that's good enough for me. It has to be. As we all know, these creatures harbor immense otherworldly strength, so even though this is already a hardcore Nuzlocke, to continue balancing them out, I'll only be obtaining one after each Totem trial. It actually works out pretty nicely that way. For the most part, I plan on randomizing which encounter comes next, except for the first. Poipole is said to be a starter of sorts where they come from, so today that'll ring true for me. Pluto is on their own for a good chunk of this first island. I will say though, while Hal was no problem, the trainer school was pretty tough. Breaking through a flailing Bonsly with acid didn't go very well, and only worked out with the help of 2 growls. And Pluto just couldn't seem to land many Fury attacks on the top students' Ekans. Sure, its Intimidate didn't help, but neither did hitting only twice so often. Ilima was pretty scary as well, what with its already min-maxed Pokemon. Fortunately, Pluto comboed the increasing power of Echoed Voice with their Beast Boost, meaning once Yungoos went down, Smeargle was able to live on 1. Kinda wish I didn't use up all my Oran Berries already. Now, Smeargle is faster and will certainly take us out with a second Technician boosted Tackle, but Ilima just used a potion. Whew. As far as starters go, Pluto has relatively decent stats. Stats that are actually comparable to the first Totem Pokemon pre-boost. Keeping that in mind along with the help of the now readily available Oran and Citrus Berries, I'm feeling pretty good. We immediately go on the offensive and begin setting Echoed Voice again, a move that, by the way, gets stronger every time it's used consecutively. We could have used Growl, but Gumshoe's primarily has status moves, or Super Fang, which would be unaffected. His first move is Scary Face, which is probably for the best. After that, Pluto takes some big tackle damage once Yungoos gets summoned, as said Yungoos lowers our defense with Leer. Not great for us, honestly. We keep the Echoed Voice focused on Gumshoes, as its damage still isn't enough to take out the baby yet. Turn 3 puts us on the receiving end of a stronger tackle thanks to the Leer, which thankfully gets healed up because Yungoos uses yet another Leer, before our third Echoed Voice finally one-shots him. This move is building insane momentum, and it's only built more by our Beast Boost. This ability raises the user's highest stat after getting a knockout, and that stat is our special attack. Only barely. It all comes down to turn 4. Pluto is at -2 defense now, and they only need to hold out on one more adaptability boosted tackle, because I'm sure Echoed Voice will be strong enough now. The Totem charges in, and we live. Pluto echoes their last voice, and Gumshoos goes down. Man, I thought Ultra Beast would make this game way easier. Speaking of, with the first Totem behind us, we can now welcome in the second Ultra Beast of the run. Well, that's not good. I do like Stakataka, and its design is really weird and unique. Not to mention they're a standard Ultra Beast, meaning they have a BST of 570. Terra makes me feel way more confident in our ability to defeat most trainers, including our cousins from the Ultra Recon squad. All except one trainer in particular. Yeah, Terra might have actually been the worst Ultra Beast to obtain right now. That monstrous defense doesn't mean anything if you're only getting hit by quad effective damage. We're relying on Pluto through and through for this fight, and it should be doable. They at least resist fighting attacks. Sure, Hollow's Pokemon would resist Pluto's Venishocks, but Echoed Voice and the Beast Boost are still a great combo. And we lucked out a little bit against the Mashup. He spends a turn setting up Focus Energy, and the first Revenge missed the crit. A following Revenge crit would have been horrifying, but the third Echoed Voice barely got the knockout. Makihita is the only one who can really ruin this plan. With Fake Out, he reset our Echoed Voice boosts, and the Beast Boost alone isn't enough to one-tap him. Then the real issue comes when Makihita begins using Sand Attack. Pluto can persevere a little, but one miss means a full damage reset. And even if we do manage to build damage again, the accuracy drops could ruin us against Crabrawler. A quick pivot to Terra on another Sand Attack means Pluto can return on an Arm Thrust to activate their Citrus Berry while resetting the stat drops. Unfortunately, in round 2, Hala ends up using a potion, so by the time Makihita gets low again, we've taken more Sand Attacks and need to run back the pivot strat. Except this time they use Arm Thrust? Oh, that actually isn't that bad. I had to double check, but Terra is 4 times weak to fighting. Wow. Anyways, by this point, Pluto can return yet again, and while it is on 4 whole Arm Thrusts, we can at least outspeed and get the kill with a single Venoshock. Even with only one Beast Boost to special attack, Venoshock can knock out the Crabrawler in 2 hits. All we have to do is live a single all-out pummeling, and Pluto barely holds out. Oh man, I really thought that battle would be a lot easier. I planned on refraining from min-maxing EVs, but now with how that went, I feel like I really should EV train after all. And sadly, Kahuna Hala wasn't a totem, so no new Ultra Beasts for us yet. Instead, Pluto, Terra, and I head to Akala Island and face off against the gauntlet of trainers while being careful to stay within the level cap. The biggest thing of note is our access to tutor moves from the Mantine Surf vendors. Yes, I earned all of these beach points. I'm a pro. But I'm not quite pro enough to figure out how to defeat the Totem Araquanid as it stands. Even with our natural bulk and offensive presence with Rock Slide, Terra won't be outgunning anyone. Sure, we'll do plenty of damage, but the boss gets a speed boost at the start of the battle, and its stab, rain boosted, water bubble boosted bubble would melt this Titan. We're more of a physical defender rather than special. I could gamble on my opponent using suboptimal moves, but with these IVs, I'd rather not. Besides, if I reset now, who knows what other Ultra Beast I'd roll? Our only chance of winning relies on the other BP shops by Mantine Surf. The awkward part about EV medication is that even in Gen 7, they could only boost the stats to about 100 points before they stop working, so we're not exactly min-maxing yet. I could go through the whole ordeal of the Festival Plaza to bypass this limit like I have before, but hey, these are Ultra Beasts we're talking about! However, even with all of the EVs in the world, we wouldn't be home free. If the Rock Slide misses at any point, then that would spell disaster for us. But fortunately, that doesn't happen. 2 turns into the fight, Terra, having dodged a Sun Spore and living a second bubble thanks to a berry juice, uses Rock Slide to finish the fight. Oh boy, I can't wait to see what the next Ultra Beast is! You know what? With Marowak's coverage, I don't think any Ultra Beast would carry us here anyways. Don't get me wrong, as far as bulk goes, this team is unmatched. It's gonna be even better when I get the Eviolite for Pluto. It's just that the damage output from this upcoming totem is otherworldly, and having 2 steel types doesn't help. An astute eye might notice that Pluto's entering the fight with a little damage already taken. That's true, but a more astute eye would notice that, relatively, it isn't much damage at all. We can thank Saturn for that. In the battles earlier within Kiawe's trial, they set up a Leech Seed that Pluto was able to use to siphon health off of the standard Marowak. Charm minimized their damage output, meaning Pluto remained mostly unharmed. The only downside is that Saturn is out of the count thanks to having taken too much damage from the Magmar, but that's okay. I led Pluto with the intent to weaken the Totem Marowak just the same with Charm. However, they spend the first turn detecting in order to summon the Salazzle. This is fine as Pluto is still holding the berry juice either way. They are prepared for a double up, but Salazzle plays passively with Torment. Marowak lands a full power Flame Wheel, but that's the last one thanks to Charm. This Volcano Guardian is usually pretty aggressive with his detects, so now's a relatively safe time to switch to Terra, who still ends up eating the full power Flame Burst. This could still get worse, but yet again, on the following turn, Salazzle uses Torment. The AI really does love their status moves. Marowak follows up with the quad-effective Brick Break, but Charm has neutered it enough that we don't get one-shot. Another Berry Juice heals us right back up, while Terra's Rock Slide saves the run again. Salazzle's down, and we get a defense boost as a little treat. Marowak stays on the offensive, but we protect to finesse the Torment. On the following turn, Marowak uses Brick Break once again, but we don't even go to the red. A single target Rock Slide is more than enough to get the win from here, and honestly, I'm just glad the move hasn't missed yet. That fight really took everything my Ultra Beasts had, and even if Terra got the most screen time, really all 3 were just as equally important. Now, depending on the next Ultra Beast, we might finally be free of this overtuned early game. Alright, I suppose Pluto will fall off sooner or later. The problem with Neptune here is that they are in fact part rock, so the upcoming Grass trial will be able to hit him neutrally. That base defense of 53 isn't great for things either. But look, I'm exclusively using Ultra Beasts. It should be clear that I am no way above using Z moves. And Saturn can use one to provide a much better showing than they did in the previous trial. After we take an X Scissor, Air Slash is promptly turned into a Supersonic Sky Strike, and we beat the roll and take out the Lurantis in one hit. I don't know how I do it, but in every single run, Marowak is a huge hurdle to overcome, while Lurantis is just no big deal. Either way, I'm not complaining now. Not to mention the power we're finally picking up. Oh yeah, I'm ready to speedrun. Oh, never mind, give me a second. It looks like wormholes are opening up around the city, and we've got to be worried about the things that could come through them. Oh no! Konikoni City is an unexpected but important checkpoint in most playthroughs. What it boils down to are the items, the TM shops, and the fashion. This place really has it all. I mean, the BP shop from the Battle Royale isn't bad either, but this place really takes the cake. All around, it's just a weird juxtaposition getting these buffs, because one moment you're fighting fully evolved Pokemon with competent movesets in a 2v1 matchup, while your Pokemon are only just barely getting usable moves. And then in the next, you're fighting rock types one by one. And one of them is Anorith. Yeah, Mars is pretty much unstoppable in this fight. I don't even set up with Power Up Punch or Bulk Up, it's just straight Brick Breaks until the end. The leftovers were nice too, but ultimately they didn't matter. The only thing about this fight was that I learned Mars might have a phobia for dogs, because Lycanroc got the flinch with Bite a number of times. Took a little longer as a result, but we got it. This is the point of the game where the plot begins to ramp up. There's plenty of story before, but it was mainly setup. I've never really been one to harp on Gen 7 for trying to tell a story. Being RPGs, of course the Alola games are going to try to build up their world, and the power of the 3DS gave Game Freak the opportunity to tell a fuller story than before. I mean, we all know the reception to X and Y's lack of story. That being said, I did feel the constant halting of my run way more this time around for some reason. Maybe it's because I've already replayed these games so much, but either way, it does make me appreciate the elegance of the storytelling in the newer games. Don't let anyone tell you that the cutscenes in Gen 9 are as bad as Gen 7. Sure, the tutorial in ZA could be faster, I suppose, but I think its incorporation has overall improved a lot. It helps that the writing's improved too, though. While visiting Aether Paradise and meeting Lucamine, a wormhole opens up again, and this time Nihilego comes out? What? I've never seen one of those before! Fortunately, I got lucky and guessed the type perfectly. Whew, that was close. We get formally introduced to Dulce and Zaci, people that we've fought before who apparently came here through an ultra wormhole to ask for help. Would Beast Balls work on them too? Well, anyways, not my problem. On to Ula Ula Island. Things are gonna ramp up and get more serious again, battle-wise, but having almost a full team makes even How's battle manageable. Typically, this fight is pretty tough, and his Alolan Raichu more or less hard counters my entire team. But as long as I take advantage of Saturn's Beast Boosts, I think I should be fine. And those boosts should all start building against the Dartrix. Our Air Slash comes out first and does pretty sizable damage. However, we get hit by Pluck and they take our berry. I thought it was Peck that they had. Either way, we're good to take the kill, but How recognizes that and hard switches to Raichu. Great! Air Slash might not do much, but Saturn's still in the green, so we stay in to tank a Psychic before healing some of it back with Giga Drain. They finally opt for Electro Ball a second turn, but it doesn't do enough and we can Giga Drain again, as they live on 1. I did the calcs here and there's a 1 in 3 chance Electro Ball kills us, and I'm not risking that. Instead, I switched to Neptune, whose speed stat weakens the Electro Ball's damage. Also, our special defense stat does that too. We live 1 non-crit Psychic pretty safely, so Venoshock swipes the kill after all. Big Bad down. Vaporeon enters next, so I go back to Saturn in hopes of building Beast Boost again. However, Water Pulse does a little more damage than I anticipated, so I switch again. Drats. But have no fear, Mars is here. They recently learned Leech Life, which got buffed in this very generation. They also happen to outspeed, so there's no need to worry about crits. Leech Life preserves my bench lifting bug, and their attack boosting Beast Boost helps them take out the following Noibat, Dartrix, and Tauros. It's kinda crazy how my team is sort of hard countered by one measly Raichu. I'm a little worried that there will be more opponents like that I just haven't considered yet. And what do you know, it turns out that one of them would be my very next opponent. Well, to be fair, it wouldn't have been if I led differently, but Totem Togedemaru uses a lot of shenanigans in this fight. Enough that I shouldn't have banked on it leading with Zing Zap on Mars. Of course he uses Bounce, dodging our Bulldoze, and we don't have Protect. Terra switches in to take the hit rather well, but they get parried, making it slightly less worth it. Skarmory is summoned for the next turn, where Terra gets hit by Zing Zap, and Skarmory sets Stealth Rocks. This is where the shenanigans come into play, because we're now at the mercy of RNG, hoping that we don't get comboed by the Para Flinch. We luckily get by to land a single target Bulldoze, which still doesn't do much with Togedemaru's +2 defense aura. On the following turn, we use Protect to scout out a Zing Zap and Steel Wing, but after that they use Zing Zap and Torment. We actually get flinched that time, but thanks to the previous Protect, Torment can't prevent our next attack. The following combination of attacks activate our Citrus Berry, but they still hurt. But at least we got rid of the Totem's Berry with Bulldoze. Both sides of the field use their own form of Protect, but it doesn't mean anything because Terra gets hit hard with a couple steel attacks on the following turn, and proceeds to get fully parried. I really should have led with Pluto to begin with. We could have used Charm just like against the Alolan Marowak, but better late than never, I guess. Pluto sort of takes the attacks well thanks to the Eviolite, and we don't have to worry about a double up before the Charm thanks to the speed drops from the Bulldoze. Skarmory goes on the defensive to set a Tailwind, while Toge lands a very weakened Iron Head. A crit would very easily ruin us. While I'm tempted to charm the Skarm now, I switch to Saturn on this still painful Zing Zap. But with our Citrus Berry, we can maintain a decent health and pose some pressure. Togedemaru Spiky shields our Leech Seed while Skarmory gets some damage off. But we kinda bounced back with them only using Torment before landing one Zing Zap to make way for us to finally land Leech Seed. From here we should be able to maintain, especially with an emergency Giga Drain at our disposal. However, our luck ran out, and Togedemaru's next Zing Zap is a crit, which means we got our first death of the run. Nothing much I could have done about that except end the battle quicker, which probably could have happened if I led with Pluto. Even with the Tailwind backup, the plentiful bulldozes let Mars outspeed the Totem Hedgehog, meaning a Brick Break gets the kill, and the support falls shortly after. I think obtaining Buzzwole made me overconfident. Beast Boost is a great ability, but the Totem fights really don't care about that. Actually, so far, I feel like these guys don't really make the game any easier at all. It really makes me wonder why they were locked to the postgame. Okay, well, it was probably because they needed a postgame. Rest easy, Saturn. You did great. Now, who will be replacing my Flying-type tank with Leech Seed? Okay, well, you don't have Leech Seed, but Jupiter is a tank. Kind of. The sad part here is that this is probably the worst stretch of the game for Jupiter. We've got a Bug Boss coming up, followed by a Fairy Totem, followed by the same Bug Boss again. On the bright side, the first round against the Bugman isn't too bad thanks to Terra's Continental Crush. It did crit, but that didn't really matter. Though we did dodge a crit of our own from the Razor Shell beforehand. Neptune sort of walls out the Masquerain, and that's that. TTYL Guzma. Speaking of precarious, it is very much so for the Totem Mimikyu. See, this is where all the totems begin to get Omni Boosts, but so long as Neptune can live on one hit, those boosts can all be undone with Clear Smog. As soon as this becomes a regular old Mimikyu, Terra tags in to use Corkscrew Crash off of Gyro Ball and take him out. Gyro Ball alone could have done it, but I wanted to be safe. And just like that, we get another new buddy. I'm gonna pronounce it Uranus and you guys can't get mad at me. Even with Saturn's recent departure in mind, I'm feeling kinda good again. Ultra Beast may not be a cure-all, but we're getting to the point of the game where we're learning some real moves, and battles against trainers with multiple Pokemon to utilize Beast Boost are becoming more present. The only thing now is to deal with Guzma again, and this time I'm counting him as a totem battle and setting a level cap for him. Usually I have a little trouble here, so I thought the level cap would make this Bug Boss a little tougher, but Uranus sorta straightens Guzma out. After a Protect on first impression, we can get an Oko with Thunderbolt, but it's not before Sucker Punch does about half. I kinda forgot about that, and otherwise our newest friend would have been able to sweep, but now we're gonna get outspeed and taken out. Fortunately, Neptune recently learned Power Gem, and they're bulky enough to weather the necessary hits to land their own. And the Beast Boost means that Pinsir is simply no better. I decided to count this fight as a totem, partially because we get a Buginium Z, but also so that we could pick up another Ultra Beast. Otherwise, we'd be missing out on one random beast for the whole game, and that doesn't sound fun. And hey! Venus the Pheromosa is oddly appropriate here. And this is the first part of the game where there's essentially a long and drawn-out gauntlet of bosses. And luckily for me, this is where the team finally gets some consistent type matchups. Gladion is angsty, but his Pokemon are frail. It's just really unfortunate to be Nanu's Dark types today. Faba's conglomerate of Psychic types are handled pretty well by Jupiter. Guzma gets his third and final battle, but it turns out that Neptune can confidently Oko Golisopod with a Heartstone, and the rest fell from there. And we also fight Dulce from the Ultra Recon Squad. These guys are all the way from Ultra Spaced, and Poipole is really the only Pokemon they could get. I'm still kinda doubting these Ultra Beasts are even Pokemon, honestly. And then that brings us to Lusamine. But for some reason, even after hitting my stride, I just couldn't find a reliable line here. Her AI is known for choosing moves randomly to signify her going crazy, but honestly, I'm kinda counting on her randomness at this point. Prepping for the worst case scenario where Lusamine plays optimally, her team just always seems to have a perfect switch in. If Saturn were still alive, I wouldn't have had to spend 2 hours in the damage calc, but here we are. There's no turning back now. I had plenty of ways to deal with Clefable, some even involving Z moves, but the real problem is whatever comes out next. I couldn't seem to find an out against the Clefable that let me simply Beast Boost sweep from there, so for the start we're just spamming Gyro Balls. Clefable shows off the truly random AI by only hitting Terra with Hyper Voice, so we're safe to set up Stealth Rocks along the way. Beware comes out next to my surprise, but Uranus is safe as long as they don't get crit. From there we use up our Z move, and that's one Cocaine Bear gone. Lilligant was one of the two big terrors. It's faster than most of my Pokemon, and Petal Dance is a dangerous move. Fortunately, Jupiter is my resident Grass Resist, so all we have to do is avoid some self-confusion hits. They go for Teeter Dance a second time, which doesn't do anything, and Jupiter powers through the status to land Crunch. Petal Dance is finally used, but doesn't do anything, so Jupiter fights through yet again to get the kill. But now we have two issues. One is that if we hurt ourselves in confusion, it'll hurt a lot more thanks to the Beast Boost. The other issue is Milotic. This Serpentious scoundrel was the main reason I had to calc for so long, because most beasts I have cannot take more than one Hydro Pump, which wouldn't be a problem if she didn't outspeed most beasts. Jupiter resists that move, sure, but Milotic also has Icy Wind and Dragon Pulse. Jupiter can manage, maybe, but only if we don't hurt ourselves in confusion at the wrong time. My goal is to protect Stalson leftovers and stall out the confusion turns if they decide to keep going. So far so good. Milotic uses Hydro Pump next, doing minimal damage, and we power through the confusion again to land the boosted Crunch. Way to go, Jupiter! They finally snap out and confidently protect the incoming Flail, and in Milotic's final moments, she just goes for Hydro Pump again. From there, my Architecture-eating monster finishes the job and proceeds to easily take out the following Lopunny with one final Crunch. If I had to do that fight a second or third time, the RNG would have gone any which way. I'm never super confident fighting Lucamine, so I'm really glad that's over. Pony Island, however, is still home to some of the scariest challenges yet. Again, it's the overtuned totems that I'm worried about, and we still don't have much wiggle room for team building. And it's not just that. Vast Pony Canyon is full of endgame trainers with scary teams. I avoid as many as possible, and only just barely get by within the level cap at the end. It's like a baby Victory Road that's more difficult than any other Victory Road. Even while speeding up and dodging most trainers, this took like 30 minutes. So I did a lot of planning for the Totem Komodo, but ultimately I cut it short because I got tired of preparing for all of the variables that could come up in this match. Do not make me play a ROM hack, I will lose. It helps a little that my primary strategy relies on the returnal of the reliable Pluto. By this point of the game, the EV reducing berries are plentiful, with enough time, and we can easily grind on the lower leveled Pokemon to pretty much build the teams however I like. I don't have that time, so I achieved this through other means, but for now, Pluto is my one and only EV'd bulky NB. Like I said already, this plan isn't super planned out, but the EVs coupled with the Eviolite at least gives Pluto the free opportunity to live a hit and charm the Omni-boosted Komodo. My original plan was to use Clear Smog from Neptune again, but I figured putting the Pseudo-Legendary at -1 attack turn 1 was better than a simple stat reset. At the end of the turn, Noivern is summoned, but at this health, we're still safe to attack barring a crit. Especially thanks to Noivern's Screech landing after Komodo's attack, because he still has his speed buff. So from there, Pluto uses Toxic, which never misses thanks to our poison typing, and yes, this is the entire strategy. I could have used Toxic to begin with for a better start on the Toxic chip, but I wanted to Charm first to make pivoting safer. We protect their next set of attacks, and switch to Terra, who's completely safe barring a Drain Punch, which they would never use on Pluto. We protect again to stall the Toxic some more, and then switch to Mars on the Drain Punch, which barely does anything. One final protect from there, and that's that. The penultimate Totemon succumbs to the poison, and Noivern didn't stand a chance against Neptune. It does feel really weird that I have to use these strats, even with a team of superpowered aliens. But that just goes to show the difficulty of these games. And the next boss fight will show that even more. But first it's time to pick up the penultimate Ultra Beast. And, ooh, that's fun. I really like Blacephalon, but you could probably tell from the lack of Pheromosa usage that these fast, frail types aren't really my style in these games. It's hard to use a Pokemon that's pretty much supposed to faint in a run where you don't want anyone fainting. Ah well, maybe the ability to min-max now will change that. The team and I spend a couple more hours preparing for the upcoming fights. Unlike the previous Totem, the whole run could easily end if I don't plan for every possibility. I'm fighting 2 renditions of Necrozma, and this thing is functionally an Ultra Beast a cut above the rest. One wrong move could ruin everything, and we've come too far to lose now. After forcing its way through the Ultra Wormhole, Necrozma and Nebby undergo a battle that I'm just glad I'm not a part of. But unfortunately for us, it's a losing battle for Nebby. Necrozma dons its Dawn Wings, and dozens of Ultra Wormholes begin to open around the region. What? What are those otherworldly creatures doing here? I wouldn't want anything to do with those. Gulp. Call it luck or call it basic odds, but with there only being one more Ultra Beast to encounter, there was a small chance that I wouldn't have the one Pokemon who could perfectly counter Necrozma by this point. Sola's here, and thanks to that Z Crystal I got from that dastardly Marowak fight, this battle is over in one turn. But this wasn't the one that I was worried about. With Necrozma retreating, this is our one opportunity to chase it. And with the help of the Ultra Recon Squad's Lunala, we can take it. Lunala? You guys had this the whole time and you were only fighting me with a Furfrou and a Poipole? These guys were going easy on me. Maybe they're the ultimate Ultra Beast users. My first time traversing Ultra Space went pretty well, considering my, gyro controls weren't working for some reason. The portal to Ultra Megalopolis ended up smack dab in the middle of our path. Lucky. Now, Ultra Necrozma is a weird fight. It's difficult and exciting in concept and execution in normal playthroughs, but even after all these years, I personally don't think it really fits a Nuzlocke challenge. Really, I think the magic of Nuzlocks is that you can get any Pokemon and make any Pokemon work, but that is not the case in this fight at all. Yeah, this fight can be trivialized if you use the Fear strat, and I heard people call this fight easy as a result, but that just seems silly to me. Like, I'm 5'8" and 150 pounds wet, but if I had a gun, would you hear me calling Prime Andre the Giant an easy fight? Probably not. And unfortunately, this team lacks a proper metaphorical gun. After doing plenty of research, the only Ultra Beast that can learn Endeavor is Mars, but they don't learn any priority. As a matter of fact, none of my Ultra Beasts have any priority moves except for Venus the Pheromosa with the move Feint, which I kept as an early level up move. However, with access to only one Focus Sash, I can only pull it off by sacrificing someone from my already small team. It sucks that the main strat people use to beat this Prime evolution, Deathless, involves a death here. So, right before I commit to the plan, I do some figuring to find another way out. But it involves a little RNG. Toxic Stall, baby! Terra is the only Pokemon I have who could live any non-crit attack once. And so long as they land the 90% accurate Toxic, we're good. Well, fortunately, Terra still lands it, and that's pretty much the fight. Under normal circumstances, the strat works even without Ultra Beasts, but without a super tank like Terra, or Saturn, most teams would still need to sack at least one or two Pokemon. Now, in our scenario, if the unthinkable happened and the first Photon Geyser crit, or if Toxic missed, I still had Jupiter ready to try for herself. They were safe either way with a Focus Sash, which wasn't used in this fight, but it still would have saved them if the Necrozma happened to go for Dragon Pulse on the switch. Neptune then tags in and survives their own Dragon Pulse, and one more Protect from there stalls the finishing turn of Toxic. Yeah, it's not that original, and it may not be that complicated, but there were a few alternate timelines where we weren't this lucky, so it still feels good. We're now entering the second point of the game with a very long gauntlet of boss trainers that aren't really worth going over. I remember thinking the original Sun and Moon were missing the final Mina trial, and this may be another case of overcorrection, but here we go. Mina is mostly handled by Sol, who gets hit hard by an unforeseen Sucker Punch, so after taking out Mawile and Granbull, Neptune finishes her faster Ribombee. With the help of an expert belt, Venus finally gets some time to shine and sweeps the entirety of Elima's team. Sol was also able to sweep Malo just as easily. After powering up Power Gem with the Z Crystal, Kiawe wasn't that bad either. Sophocles has two Pokemon with Sturdy, so sweeping him wasn't an option, but with some timely pivots, he mostly becomes a non-issue. In spite of the final Totem's double Omni Boost, Neptune still manages to one-shot her with Acid Downpour, giving us access to the final Ultra Beast of the run, Mercury the Kartana. An incredible Ultra Beast who unsurprisingly solos the entirety of the fourth and final Kahuna's team. And finally, right before the Elite Four, Gladion blocks our way and takes more focus, but ultimately isn't that bad. Uranus counters Crobat as always, making way for Lucario to come out next. But I could always tell it's Zoroark thanks to the second Pokeball on Gladion's team being grayed out. That's the spot that Zoroark's in and was switched with. So Terra tags in to eat the Black Hole Eclipse that did way more than I anticipated. But no matter, because with only Snarl and Hyper Voice as options, I'm completely safe to switch to Mercury and... What? Night Days? Looks like I should have cross-referenced my, documentation. Mars is able to sweep from there without taking a hit on the switch, so the battle is as good as done, but... rest in peace, Mercury, that sucks. I don't even have a lesson to take from this, and Ultra Beast just died from bad information. The worst part about this is that Mercury was yet another Steel type. Would have been real nice to have him for the Elite Four, but that's that, I suppose. Pokemon is a funny game. Just when you feel like you're at the top of the world, it always seems to find a way to put you back in your place. Don't get me wrong, we still have a full team of Ultra Beasts, so sneaking through Victory Road, tiptoeing past Necrozma, and skipping the last double battle by only having one Mon on the team isn't a very big ask of me. But I'd be lying if I said I still felt like I'm at the top of my game. Mercury was such a good Pokemon that if I got them any earlier, then this whole run might have been trivialized. So maybe this is for the best after all. Maybe I'll stay off of autopilot or something. And it's not the end of the world, because with the move relearner available, Pluto finally gets to evolve into Naganadel. Naganadel? One of my favorite freak Pokemon. I have to remember that all isn't lost. I've still got Pluto, Terra, Neptune, Mars, Uranus, and Sol. There are still plenty of able-bodied and willing Ultra Beasts to see this challenge to the end, and I wouldn't do it with any other batch of buddies. We're here, so we're going to finish this. In a previous run, I had an Ultra Beast make it to the Elite Four as well. Yeah, they made things easier, but oftentimes seemed to just barely miss out on some calculated kills that would have made things a breeze. Though this time is different, because now we have a wider variety of Ultra Beasts with Stab. Taking the smallest amount of prep out of all of them, Soul makes full use of their Beast Boost ability to sweep Acerola. No priority moves means we're safe to get the first knockout on Bayonet, and that single little buff is enough for Soul's second Shadow Ball to one-shot her ace Palossand. The rest of her team fared no better, including her Frostlass, who's even outsped out of all things. Kahili was a little worrying for me, as her lead Braviary is in the speed tier that Uranus would have to worry about, and we will be taking damage otherwise. However, Braviary is one level under the level cap, meaning we could just barely outspeed and get the one-shot. Hawlucha is one of the mons that do outspeed, and Throat Chop is nothing to scoff at. Unluckily for them, after they go down and Oricorio is brought out, they simply don't have the power to finish us off. If the Braviary was one level higher, then we wouldn't be surviving here. And should the Salsa specimen here have gone for Teeter Dance, we were prepared to rid ourselves of confusion with a berry. From there, it's a sweep reminiscent of the previous fight. Of course, sweeping is the best way to handle battles in Nuzlocke. They end things quickly and minimize the RNG you have to roll. But in these other two fights, we're unfortunately strong-armed into rolling said RNG anyways. Without Mercury to sweep Olivia as originally planned, Mars takes their place and does surprisingly well out the gate. Armaldo is hit neutrally by fighting, but two Iron Heads are good enough to finish them off while Mars takes minimal damage. Gigalith is too bulky for us even after one boost, but once we activate our Z Crystal and use all-out pummeling, even he didn't stand a chance. Now, that level up lets us barely outspeed and take out the ace. The RNG that I was referring to had to deal with Probopass. Sturdy lets her survive any hit and land at least one in return, and in their case, it's Thunder Wave. Now Probopass outspeeds and does crazy damage with Power Gem, putting Mars in the yellow. We could live one hit and try to knock them out, but the Sandstorm set by Gigalith's ability will for sure finish us off by the end of the turn. A change of plans brings Terra on the field, and it turns out that they're capable of living a Power Gem on the Switch, even comboing with a nasty Earth Power. A crit would have been so sad. But from there we clutch it up, and a single Bulldoze barely swipes the knockout. Last is Cradily, and while the bulk is pretty annoying, Pluto can work together with Uranus amidst the full restores to end the fight. Bolane is the worst of the bunch, which is why he was saved for last. There are a few instances of RNG we have to play around, but because of the Klefki's Prankster, I have to base everything on that. While we're faster, the Prankster ability gives Klefki priority on status moves like Thunder Wave. And honestly, I almost risked it, but I'm so glad I gave Soul the Lumberry. We now remain faster than all of Bolane's steel types, and proceed to burn Klefki, Dugtrio, and Bisharp to a crisp. But this is where our second instance of RNG resides. Magneton has Sturdy, and its Thunderbolt kills Soul about 13% of the time. Given their Sturdy and damage output, I have no choice but to stay in and risk it. And we live! Magnezone goes down, but it's not over yet. I know good and well that Metagross has the priority Bullet Punch, so we cannot risk staying in. Instead, Uranus tags in, but to my shock and horror, they use Zen Headbutt instead? What? I guess it was a random move because anything could kill, but really? They didn't use priority? Thunderbolt does half while they take us to the red, so we stay in and get conditioned by the previous turn and fall to Bullet Punch. Alright, in my defense, yeah, I didn't calc it, but because we resisted Steel, I thought we'd live. Man, sometimes I feel like Game Freak takes over my AI directly from the office just to ruin my day. Rest in peace, Uranus, you did great out there. Pluto saves the day, finishing this chapter of the Elite Four. All that's left is Hal, and given his team, I'm way more confident than I was against Mullane, or even Olivia. But Pokemon is a nasty, nasty game, so while I am confident, I still need to be prepared for anything. One of the possibilities that worried me was a hard switch from Hal from Raichu to Tauros. He would have been immune to Shadow Ball, ruining my plan entirely, but I guess that's more of a turn 2 type of play. Once Raichu falls, Vaporeon is next, and this would normally be a problem if we couldn't give them a never-ending nightmare. Sorry Hal, I've been there. It's a little different for me though, because your nightmare is planning while mine is bad RNG. But I get it. Tauros is now easily KO'able by Flamethrower, and Crabominable was actually KO'able from the beginning. But I'll take that extra boost. We've got Noivern to deal with next, but they aren't strong enough to take out Soul from full HP with Dark Pulse. But they aren't good enough to flinch. Okay. I actually didn't prepare for this. I didn't think I had to. Either way, Neptune is still pretty bulky among other things, so they can't get hit very hard by Noivern's special attacks. We drain one of How's full restores along the way, but eventually, Noivern falls. Last is Decidueye, and while I'd love to make use of our Beast Boost, Neptune still can't get the one-shot. Instead, I switch to Mars, who seems to perfectly counter this starter. They switch in on a Leaf Blade, but heal it all back the next turn with Leech Life. How attempts to trap us in using Spirit Shackle, but too bad for them, we don't plan on going anywhere. Leech Life heals most of the Spirit Shackle damage, while always bringing Decidueye down to the red after 2 hits, proccing a full restore. This doesn't seem to be a problem at first, until How keeps using the full restores. I counted up to 4. This has to be against battle regulation. But no matter for us, because Mars has exactly the amount of Leech Lives they need to take out How's final Pokemon, to win us the Elite Four, to win us the Alolan Championship, and to win us the entire game. Wanna know how I came up with the idea for this run? I wanted a freebie. But man, these games really make you think. I know the fights towards the end went by pretty quickly, but a lot went into sorting them out to make sure nothing went wrong. Especially early on. Either way, thank you all so much for watching today, and making it to the end. It really means a lot. I'm not exactly sure when this video will be going up, but happy holidays and happy new year. I think that covers all my bases. But that's all I've got today. Thank you all again so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and have a good one.